Zimbabwe.
I'm standing here in front of Zimbabwe House in London, where Zimbabweans gather every Saturday to protest the undemocratic rule that has existed within the country for several decades.
I don't see how it's going to end, because the author of the epidemic is still in charge. Coming in of Morgan Tsvangirai, well, what can he do? He's not in charge.
Coordinator of London's weekly Zimbabwe Vigil, Ifran Tapa, is one of many Zimbabweans who think the power-sharing agreement won't work. They think it's just a new take on the same political situation. He says that Tsvangirai's move to join power with Mugabe gives up the country's powerful opposition voice.
In the past, it was like Morgan Tsvangirai was the moral voice. That has since gone. By him joining Robert Mugabe, it means that he can no longer speak with the moral authority that he used to command.
But head of the Chatham House Africa program, Alex Vine, says, in spite of the parties' differences, the two political parties should listen to one another. He says that if Mugabe and Tsvangirai work together, not only would it benefit the Zimbabwean people, but themselves as well.
There is every incentive to try and make this government of national unity work so that more Zimbabweans benefit from it, including those that remain in government.
But Vines admits that past power-sharing agreements have failed. In the power-sharing agreement in the 1980s, Mugabe had managed to oust the opposition and return the government to his one-party rule. Vines says that if history repeats itself, a political union could be short-lived and lead Mugabe returning to his old habits.
They don't work very well in Zimbabwe. Historically, there was one in the early 80s called the Unity Accord between the two nationalist movements, being ZANU-PF of Mr. Mugabe and ZAPU of the late Joshua Nkomo. That didn't work, and if you read Mr. Nkomo's memoirs, he said that within 6 months of having reached that agreement and entered into government of national unity, so to speak, he had become marginalised. So let's see if history repeats itself or it doesn't. The next 6 months will tell us that.
International analysts will watch the political situation in Zimbabwe within the next few months. They will be watching to see if change is on the horizon for the troubled country, or if Zimbabwe's progress will remain stagnant in its tracks.